So, Kimberly, do we have anybody here on that would like to open it up? I don't see anybody right here.
Hi, I'm here. It's Jen.
Oh, hi,
Hi,
Jen.
Marion. Hi, Kim. Hi.
Hi, Jen.
Um, yeah, this is really, I was really happy that I jumped on live to this call. It was really like a blessing to me. I My husband and I have been honoring Shabbat, I would say, for the past 3-ish years, slowly. Um, However, I think throughout those 3 years, we became like slowly have become more and more convicted on keeping it how we know we should. Like our heart, I feel like has been open to actually see um why we're doing things and how it has blessed our family, how it is like it is for our family and it is a date with our father, you know.
Yes.
Um in the beginning, in the beginning I kind of like laugh looking back because we my husband's a firefighter, so his schedule's
Mm,
really wacky. And
yes.
I was really lonely. I have 4 kids and they're all
Mm,
high energy and they're young, and I have a son with special needs. And, in the beginning, I wanted to do this like intimate thing with him, you know?
mm-hmm.
So we came up with this thing and we started doing like Shabbat on random days. Like we would look at the calendar and say, okay, this month you're home on Wednesday and then Thursday and then we would just do it those days. And I think we did that for like 4 months. And
Mm,
then my husband said, "Oh, Jen, the more that I've been studying, I feel like we should honor it when it's supposed to be, you know?" So then I was sad because I took it personally, you know? And this was
uh-huh.
3 years ago. I'm like, wait, you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do it with me? And he was like, well, if he's like, I won't take overtime on the days that, on Shabbat, I will never work overtime. And it was around like when everything started happening about 3 years ago. So on
Mm,
the days that I have to work, I'm going to work, but I'll make sure that I'm going to bring my own food. And he had all these things that he was going to do. And I started to think like, wow, this is a date with my father. This isn't a date with my husband, you know? And
mm-hmm.
so and it's so funny. So then throughout the years, I would say this past year, it was crazy. He was just offered a job opportunity where he would have in the fire department. He applied for it, and a lot of people applied for it, and it was so crazy. He got it, and he has weekends off now.
Wow.
And
He
yeah, and
gives you
so
the desires of your heart.
yes, yes. So it's been so beautiful. The problem that I have, not the problem, but the things that I think with family that has been difficult is, we're the only one walking, in the Hudson. Please go upstairs. Yes, go upstairs, please. Mommy's on the phone. The hard part, I think, is the sanctification, in our home, slowly being convicted of things, and then things changing, and then
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe sometimes family I feel like I'm being judged by them, and like, oh well,
Mm-hmm.
you guys went on a date
Mm-hmm.
like 6 months ago on Saturday, and we watched your kids, and
Mm-hmm.
now we can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so constantly feel like I'm trying to almost explain myself of, well, yeah, we used to do that, but now we do this.
Right.
Um, and so this was really encouraging to me because it was a good reminder that I can really be loving with my words, but yet stand firm.
Yes.
Because, my family, I'm a very intimate and closed person. So I don't share everything that we do. And, it's kind of sad. My own dad's coming to visit this weekend, and he doesn't even know,
Mm,
because I'm always just scared, of their opinion
mm,
and how it's going to, like, I don't want to have to defend myself all the time because
yes.
I feel like it takes away the beauty of like the intimacy that I have with the father, if that makes sense.
Mm,
But the boundaries, I feel like even when I tell my family, the next month, then it's, oh, well, we have a family get like we're gonna go here for the kids' birthdays, and it's gonna be Saturday, and they want to celebrate my son's birthday.
mm-hmm,
And sometimes I don't even say anything. I'm just like, oh, we can't go, and instead of just being like, hey, we don't do that on Saturday, and it kind of
mm-hmm,
explain it.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Or can we do that on another day?
yeah, right. Well, the thing is, this is funny because they work 6 days a week. And so
Mm,
Saturday is when they do grocery shopping, is when they go do
mm,
things. And so
mm-hmm,
it's funny how everyone else is fine to tell you that they work all the time and this is the only day they can do things. but yet sometimes I feel uneasy being like, well, this is the day that I set up, that my family sets apart, you know?
Right, right.
Like, why do I feel, I don't know. It's just, it's very challenging, I think, sometimes. But, and like you said, it can feel kind of isolating, I think,
Yes,
for me
yes.
personally. Um,
So
and
what are you going to
yeah.
do when your dad comes? Are you going to do Shabbat with your, how are you going to do that when your dad comes this weekend?
Well, so he's coming Friday night, and so I'm gonna have everything prepared ahead of time,
Yes, yes.
I've already been food shopping. I started cleaning the house. Like you said, I always prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have kind of like a routine down now, but
Right.
I'm gonna make sure, we're gonna feed the kids first and then put them to bed. And then I think we're gonna he has 2 kids too that are very young, oh, younger than mine.
Mm,
And so, yeah, and so him and his wife are coming and they're bringing their little kids. And so,
mm,
yeah, I think we'll just do like a small blessing
mm-hmm.
and then do the food and put them to bed. And then probably, then my husband is gonna, he's making steak ahead of time. We're gonna have a beautiful dinner. I have, the tablecloth, the candles, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna talk to my husband and see what he feels comfortable
Mm-hmm.
like doing. But I
Right.
think that my father would be receptive of it. And then on Saturday, I have stuff to make to eat for lunch that I'm gonna prepare ahead of time. We're just gonna, go on a walk and hang out. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think maybe later that night we'll order or go out to eat or something. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think, but it's easy sometimes, I feel like, for me to just kind of hide it, but yet,
Mm.
you know
Yes.
what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. Because we don't want to have the conflict.
Yeah, like kind of like when I eat clean,
Yeah.
Um, sometimes I think it's better for me not to say anything and to just bear it. And then other times I'm like, well, this is who I am. How long can like, should I be not saying anything? It's
Mm-hmm.
just,
Mm-hmm.
it's challenging
It
sometimes,
is.
but
It is.
I have so much joy. Like I've never, honestly, this is the first time I truly feel born again, you know,
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the last few years.
Yes. How wonderful is that? Well, it sounds like you're doing great. It sounds like you're doing great and you've got it under, um, you have it all planned. And I know sometimes when I've gone to visit a relative, and on Saturday they wanted to go to the mall, they wanted to go shopping, and I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. And or they would have me go along with them and I'm just walking along and it's a terrible, terrible feeling. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
it was just like, oh wow, why do I have to do this? And they did not
Hmm.
understand, and so sometimes it's a long, long day. Uh, you know, if you don't have something else planned. And it's just
Yeah.
something they're so used to, that way of life, that they don't understand, or they don't understand that it's like for the whole household of Israel that, so many times people say, oh, well, now you're becoming a Jew. This is Jewish stuff.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
that's what they call me. They call me Jewish Jen, and it like
yeah, Jewish.
all my
We'll
my
say,
whole family.
well, thank you.
Yeah,
That, you know what?
yeah,
I have a relative named Messiah.
yeah, yeah. That's so exactly because like I
Is
feel
it?
like I don't understand like even this. I lead a small group of women and in a Sunday church, but we meet not on Sunday. We meet like we met today in the morning, and
Yeah.
I pick the studies, and the studies are well, they give it to me, but I make sure they're fine, and they're
Uh-huh.
wonderful, and they know me and they respect me, and everything, and they're very interested, and they come often, and we do we I teach them about the feasts.
Mm.
Um, that's also another thing that sometimes is hard,
Right,
constantly
right,
feeling not understood. But at the same
right.
time, I feel like, they are my sisters in Christ. And so as long I'm at a point now where I stand firm with my
Yes.
family, but for some reason my extended family is like, I don't know. I still feel like a little girl to them and like, oh, am I making the right choice for them? And I think the thing that hurts me the most is they feel like my children are suffering, like I'm withholding things. And the crazy part is my children have never been happier, like they're
Right,
excited about Passover. They're excited to learn about the
right,
plagues and they find delight in eating clean and reading
right,
labels and not having food die and
right.
um but, but a very close family member, there's like a party that we go to every year. I grew up going to like a Louisiana crawfish.
Mhm.
And, the last 3 years we haven't partake in eating it, but I still go to the event. And I just kind of like sit there and like, just nobody even noticed, until one
Mm.
day my mom said, "Oh," my son, he's 7, said to my mom, she said, "Oh, are you guys gonna come this year?" And he said, "Well, no, not like, aren't those bottom feeders?" And my mom was like, "Hudson, you are only a kid. You should not be worrying about this stuff. Like, don't
Mm.
worry about everything. You worry too much." And,
Mm.
I overheard the conversation,
Mhm.
and like you said, you wanna honor your mother
Mhm.
and father. I wanna honor my
Right.
mother. But at the same time, I also am like, "Mom, this is a joy for him," you know?
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
and even when it's not, even when he wants a lollipop that his friend has and it has food dye in it, we don't have that, like, sorry,
Mhm.
like, you're a
Right.
kid.
Right.
Sometimes you're not gonna always have joy,
Right.
but
Right.
overall, I do feel like, I do in my heart now, I feel like I'm totally convicted that keeping the law, trying to be and to keep the law to the best of my ability, it
Mhm.
does fill me with law. It's a delight.
Yes, it
It's
is.
not a burden.
No, it's not a burden. No. That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing. That was so beautiful.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a long rant, but thank you. This is really encouraging to me when my dad, because my dad's coming to, I
Right.
feel more confident in the words that you said, in the verses that you said. So thank you, Kim, for writing those down.
Mm. You did a great job, Kim.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you. I don't, I've I don't know. I've been pretty blessed in this area. It was hard when I first started because I was married to a non-believer, but over the years I haven't had anybody challenge me or anything. But I also have a I really don't care what you think or what you say attitude, and most people that know me know that about me. So I, you know, people's opinion of me has never bothered me.
That's
Um,
great.
I'm like, whatever.
Oh, that's really great.
It's really good that you have the confidence in yourself, that you're not a people pleaser or that you stand for what you believe in and it doesn't bother you.
Well, I was a really weird child. So at a really young age, I said to myself, I can either be happy or I can do what other people want me to do. And I
Mhm.
chose to be happy.
Mhm.
And then I realized, like, it's, I'm going to get a tiny bit personal, but my family is very dysfunctional, like super dysfunctional. And they could care less. So it's like, just, I'm just going to be me. And if they don't approve of it, that's, because they don't approve of anything I do anyway. They
Mhm.
barely know I'm alive. So,
Wow.
and thankfully, my husband, his family, so my husband grew up well, not keeping the Torah per se, but he grew up in a Sabbath keeping cult, basically.
Mm.
They kept the Sabbath and all the feast days. And um, yeah, he grew up. They joined that when he was 2. It's a Church of Church of God, or I don't remember. They're kind of disbanded. They have different factions now, but um, who's Herbert Armstrong?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah,
They did certain feasts and whatever. They just didn't really, or certain things, but they didn't do it from the Hebraic perspective.
yeah. And so when they left that, they, became Torah observant
Mhm.
and got
Mhm.
into that. So my husband
Yeah.
kept the Sabbath and the
Yes.
criteria, easy eating
Mhm.
his whole life. And so his whole well, his mother and his father and his stepmother, they all keep it. So we don't have any, there's no issues there.
Yes.
So yeah. So I've been pretty blessed in that area. And then a lot of the friends, like haven't had very very many friends in my adult life, but I don't know, it's just crazy because God has always led me to Sabbath keeping friends.
Mm.
So
Wow. That's amazing. That's wonderful. Yeah, it's the Worldwide Church of God. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, my in-laws are not no longer a part of it. Excuse me. They I think they left when my husband was about 13 or 14, I can't remember. Um, and then they became uh, Torah observant or
Mm.
got into the Hebrew roots movement or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they've been a part of that for years.
Yeah.
Um,
That's wonderful. That's one. I know some other people that they were the same way too with Herbert Armstrong. And then I don't think they had just one teacher, did they also? They would have like a meeting place. They didn't have like a regular, they would meet from different places and whatever, but
yeah.
they emerged into the Torah very easily, most cases.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
my husband has a lot of books from a guy called Fred Coulter. I don't know
huh.
if you know
I've
him.
never heard of him. Huh.
He wrote a lot of books on keeping the feast days and the
Mm,
Sabbath, and
mm-hmm.
he wrote a lot of books on a lot of things. He's got
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
volumes.
Well, I think too, I think none of us we want to be peacemakers and we don't want to have conflict.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this walk does present itself to bring conflict, especially like, you're like adopted into the family. So if all of your days you have been doing, um, you know, the Christmas or the Easter in a certain way with Easter eggs or certain things, or been doing, not worrying about the eating certain things, and then all of a sudden this is all changed, and families are so used to doing this for generations that they sometimes take it personally, you know.
Yeah. And that, see, and even that's another thing. I was just thinking about this. We used to go out for shrimp with
Mm,
some friends,
mm-hmm,
and then you know, then the kids and I, because this was when I was married to a non-believer, and we used to
mm,
all go out for shrimp, and then the kids and I became Torah observant, and switched our eating, and our friends were like, "Oh, okay, we
mm,
won't go out for shrimp," and we just did other things and had barbecues and
mm-hmm,
that sort of thing. So,
mm-hmm,
like I said, I've been pretty blessed in this area.
mm-hmm.
Even my ex-husband was like, "Do you mean I don't have to shop for Christmas presents?" Okay.
Yeah. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Wow.
he was like, "Okay, no Christmas, no Easter. That's, no Halloween. Okay, cool."
Mm-hmm.
And he could see that we were doing other things, and well, anyway, he expressed to me a lot of things, but he never expressed to me that he felt like the kids were missing out because we did other things.
Right. Right. And the children adapt because if they see you joyful and excited and doing things, they adapt to it. They start learning, Although, the whole idea of like the 8 days of Hanukkah, a gift each night, that was adapted from, the Jewish children that were going to regular, you know, elementary schools or around other kids. They felt so, distant or so neglected and so that's when that whole thing started. Because really in Israel, they don't even give gifts, really, for Hanukkah or that. So, you can trade one holiday for another and just kind of make it the same. So, everybody's got to have that growth period. And so, but I think it is hard because also people don't want to change is so hard, isn't it? And so when they're so used to doing it for so long, they take it as you're rejecting them.
Right.
And to say, gosh, maybe I'll look into this and maybe I was wrong. I think the app and the program The Chosen has helped some people because rather than
Hmm.
seeing Yeshua Jesus as a denomination, now they see him more in his culture. And I know there are more people that are been looking into. I know some of my neighbors that come for Shabbat now, they go, wow, they saw a Shabbat. Uh,
Yeah.
wow, I
Yeah.
I want to do this.
Yeah, I like what you said there because so many people, I think it's the second episode too in The Chosen, so you don't have to even get that far.
It is the
You
second
know,
episode. I
it's like
know. And it
it's
was
like, come
great.
on. Yes, you know
Yeah.
what? People have all these things to say. I personally love like the way and in that episode, oh, it was beautiful. And I have all the girls like in my small group are like, Jen, like I remember we came over when you had Shabbat and it was like Jesus did this. And I was like, I
Yes.
know.
Yes. Yes. And
You
when he
know?
kisses when they kiss the mezuzah,
Oh,
all
yes.
these things, he's still doing it. This isn't just, and if you just read, lately, in the last Torah portion, when Miriam, she went and presented Yeshua and did the, exactly what they did for a male child. And she did not say, okay, we don't have to do this anymore. It it
Right.
it's like all these things. And when they did, they said Lashana Tova, or Happy New Year, and they were breaking the bread or the challah, and oh yes, and so it's a great, um isn't it? If you can get even some of your friends to even watch that, or family,
Yeah.
it might bring a different light into things.
I've never
Yeah,
seen it.
exactly. And it's not then coming, everything is not coming from me. I think
Right.
that's the misconception is that even my sister,
Mm-hmm.
who she she claims this is, her belief is that nature is her god, and
Okay.
she said to me recently, um oh yeah, I've seen so many changes in you guys, in your
Mm-hmm.
family, and then I actually got to sit down with her and talk to her, and she asked me, she was like, so, like, what does this mean? You guys are doing best. She's like, so do you believe that Jesus, like, so you do believe he's the Messiah, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's just that I feel like the disconnect of not
Mm-hmm.
understanding that it is similar,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what you said really hit home because this is one of the things that I was thinking of not being so hard, like taking it personally, is that I grew up in a Catholic home, and so I never saw anybody that when I was growing up, like open a Bible. Like the only
Mm-hmm.
Bible I had was I went to an all girls Christian,
Mm-hmm.
Catholic high school. And like it was on the bottom of my bag. I didn't even know where it was half the time. I hated like going to quote unquote religion class.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And no one had a Bible in my house, And so I bought my first Bible right before I got married, and it was white. And I bought my husband a black one, and it was just like I couldn't even believe that we were carrying Bibles around,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when you said that, because I feel like people that are closest to me in my family, when they hear all of this stuff, all of a sudden they're like big Catholics again, like they're defending their faith, But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's because they're, part of them is like, "Ooh, did I do something? Maybe what I was teaching my
Mm-hmm.
children
Mm-hmm.
isn't right." And so, and I'm thankful for the life I had. It led me to
Right.
where I am. I chose
Right.
this right here, and I'm happy here. But I think you're right. Like a lot of the times, it's probably more about them than it
Mm-hmm.
personally is about me.
Yes.
Those
Yes.
sacred cows you're tipping over.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yes. And they
Exactly.
don't even know, like you said, it's just tradition, and what they don't even know why they're doing it. But it's taking
Yes.
one of their sacred cows, like, I think it was Kimberly, were you saying that? Yeah. And it's just, and then you have the answer for it.
Oh,
And
yes.
and then that also troubles them,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Well,
Right.
yeah, you
I
know.
think the thing with tradition, though, is I think one of the things why it's so hard to let go of tradition is because it's not just something that you do, it's something that forms who you are. It's something that is rooted in your family culture.
Yes.
And so that I
Yeah.
think that's part of why it's so hard to let go of traditions. And because, people, like you hear people talk about Christmas and they
Mhm.
have all these you know, um, when we bake cookies for Christmas, we
Mhm.
go and we see the lights and we do the Christmas
Mhm.
tree and we
Yes.
have a big
Yes.
dinner. So all that tradition and memories, and that's something that has formed them as a person.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And
gives
good
them peace.
memories for them a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, nostalgia and they
Yes.
want to give that to their children. And then when you come into this walk, it's like now I have to form new traditions and it's
Mhm.
unfamiliar. And then people a lot of times are like, well, what do I do? How do I do this in a way that honors God?
Right.
And
Right.
what about, okay, I don't want to just, do this like you were saying, I don't want to take this tradition and replace this tradition with it
Yeah.
and
Right.
do, just trade one idol for another idol. um so I think that is where it gets hard for people.
Well,
Yeah, that's why.
go
Sorry, go
ahead.
ahead, Mary.
Well,
Oh no, I was just
I'm,
gonna say this is why. Oh, sorry. This is
go
why
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
didn't do that. This is why we didn't do Hanukkah in the beginning,
Hmm.
because or still because
Right.
I didn't want. I was nervous that if for me, my husband and I were like, okay, we're not going to do Christmas. Well, let's get the plate. Let's get the things for outside of our house and the mats for our door and the blue
Yes.
tablecloths and we're going to do
Yes.
presents for the kids. And then we were like, whoa, back up. Like we don't need that. We need to just focus. Like let's just get the biblical feasts down
Hmm.
and then go from there because that in itself is a lot, and like
Right.
let's do
Right.
that right first,
Right. They said one time a Jewish man was into an area and there was all these lights and he goes, "Oh, wow. Never saw so many doing the Festival of Lights, which is Hanukkah." And so in my neighborhood there's a gentleman that puts up lights because he does that part, but he did blue and white and he's switching over and he did all blue and white, or some have put, but a big Hanukkah up,
Hmm.
in there. And a lot of times it's a focal point that people say, "Oh, what is that you have?" Or what are you doing? And sometimes people are very interested, but I think, for some, it's like you're saying you're taking away these good memories they have. Some people have great memories of their holidays, and other ones there just was a lot of
Yeah.
fighting or drinking, a lot of
Yes.
alcohol, and then, people see this on TV, the happy little family. Well, nobody has just a happy little family. There's
Right.
always dysfunctional
That's good.
in everyone. And so we see that and we have to adjust to that. But I think that's when we're not doing that. They sometimes think, "Oh, you're telling me this was all wrong."
Hmm.
And so I think it is. I think it's more about them. And so if
Yeah.
you can just kind of replace with just saying, "Look at the goodness of it." And some people are very easy. "Wow, I don't have to spend all this money anymore. I don't have to get gifts for this one and that one." And they can see it. And I know I've talked to some of my relatives that are doing, Chris, and they said, "Oh, we know it's got nothing to do with God. We just like
Yeah.
doing it."
Yeah.
And so I think that is happening a lot of the
Yes.
materialism, that they realize, the very few that says, Christ is the reason, or this is, we're celebrating. And most of them do know now that he was not born on December 25th, but they just do it because it's fun. But you're saying, "Oh my gosh, you have all these other holy days, all these wonderful times, and
Hmm.
every week you can do the Sabbath." And they just really don't want to do it, because really, when it gets down to it, they'll have Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and so many, the very next day, people are taking down their trees and, exchanging their
Hmm.
gifts and moving on to something else,
Ah, that's so good. Yes.
hmm
Yeah.
and so so we do the very best we can, but I noticed in myself over the years that I've tried to be a lot more, before, when people would say to me, Merry Christmas, I would say Happy Hanukkah, or that. And in the area where we live in Oklahoma, there's not that many Jewish people, and a lot of stores, they didn't carry anything for Hanukkah,
Hmm.
hardly at all, and it was upsetting. But now, I just try to I go about it in a different way. And so you try to give them some way of not putting them down, and then
Uh-huh.
maybe having a chance to work with them. And I think that's where our hearts are, that we not blast them with certain things that make them feel so much less than. And so this is great. I think as
Yeah.
we
Thank
talk,
you.
So before we close, it's almost about time now to close. Is there anybody else that wanted to share, or anyone else?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just us. Thank you so much, by the way. This was really good. Thank you.
That is great. Okay, well, Shabbat Shalom, early Shabbat
Yes, I
Shalom.
know.
Love you, ladies. Have a
Love you.
great
Thank you so
evening.
much. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
okay.
Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye bye.